Hey everybody, welcome back to another edition of Revisit, and certainly getting excited. We actually have at least on the agenda, we have a spring football season to look forward to, and believe me, as you well know, as well as anyone, we are definitely thrilled and excited about that. And I could not do one of these without bringing in the next gentleman, head coach at Montini Catholic, Coach Boo, and my friend. It's just good to see you.
Well, thanks, Timmy. You too. I been trying to keep up and read all the happenings going on, and it seems like it's been such a long time. I can't believe we're really a couple weeks out here from the official start. So, it doesn't look like it outside, but at this point, we're also just excited that we're just ready to go, whatever it brings.
Yeah, well, I'll be honest. I didn't see this happening at all. I really didn't think we were going to get a spring season. What were your thoughts? I mean, I know we were all trying to stay positive, but we didn't have a whole lot of indication that this was going to happen all of a sudden, and it did.
No, I think that once basketball did not start on time, that really threw me into a deep worry. I thought, oh my gosh, if they can't start basketball, then it seemed like kind of everything just in a week and a half period there, all these things started falling in line. And I think all the coaches are the same way. We just want to have some semblance of a season, get a few games in for the seniors, properly say goodbye and thank you to them. And also, keep the fires burning for the underclassmen, and get some film on them too. So I'm hoping, fingers crossed, that we keep progressing and moving forward with this vaccine. And, we're just thankful to have whatever part. I know I've seen a lot written, especially on your site, about playoffs and non-playoffs, and kind of makes you realize and think what's really important. And I think that overall for these kids, they just had to get back to something. And so I'm really happy with where we're at right now, just to move forward from here.
Yeah, I think the whole strategy and the thought of postseason and kind of went out the window a while ago. And
Yeah,
I don't know, people are fooling themselves about full playoffs and everything. It just wasn't going to happen. And let's talk about the school aspect of it a bit. Certainly a big part of the story, and you, along with I think a lot of the other Catholic schools, kind of handled this, I think, well, and we're able to deal with it. And at minimum, you guys are on a hybrid. And I know you mentioned earlier that today's the first full day back in school, and that's definitely a positive. So walk us through how Montini Catholic handled this. And, again, I give you guys a lot of credit because you were able to figure a way to get through this despite all the cases and everything else that went on. But you were able to at least offer some form of in-class learning, and I think a big advantage for you guys.
Yes, it was. Last March, everybody was blindsided by this. I remember when the first day we thought, oh my gosh, we're going to be out of school for 2 weeks. What are we going to do? And little did we know this was going to stretch deep, a year later. So I really have to give kudos to our school and, Kevin Byrne and Sarah Lotka, the administration here. They've been fighting, every step of the way to do what was best for our kids. So we had a really positive experience, as positive as it could be, last spring with our e-learning. We're an iPad school. All of our students are issued an iPad. We started that program 8 years ago. Little did we know one of the great benefits of starting that program would be, the use of those in a worldwide pandemic like we're in now. And, so our kids were in touch as much as we could be throughout the spring. And then, into the fall, we decided to go with a hybrid model. We started day one. And again, no secret, that's one of the advantages of being a smaller to mid-sized school, is that we're able to fit all of the, within those parameters. So we divided our student body in half, and it worked out very well. And again, we had a few cases that we navigated throughout the fall, but every single one of those students and a couple of faculty members came back and recovered fully. And, we were able to do that. So our administration kept through with the plan, and we were actually supposed to start full in-person learning yesterday. And of course, in the tradition of what's going on with COVID last year, it had to be, a foot of snow on the ground, and school was canceled. So the kids had to wait one more day before they came back. But today, it's part of the, right through the morning here, everything's been going good. And, our kids have just been so resilient. We've seen so many young men and women here at school step up. I'm particularly proud of the guys in the football program, their leadership, the seniors, and even some of the lower classmen have just been, fantastic. So it gives you a reason to be excited.
I mean, as a head coach, you're always a mentor and kind of a counselor and even a substitute dad in some situations. And going through what we went through and having to deal with something that we've never dealt with before, there was no playbook. I got to imagine, Boo, your job became probably as much counselor and someone to listen to and bend an ear with, as opposed to just being a quote unquote teacher / coach. And how important was that aspect of your job during this pandemic? I gotta imagine just took a ton of your time day in and day out.
Well, that was really the most important part of it, Tim, to be honest with you. We're all football coaches. We all love the game. We all love to compete. We all love to compete against each other, especially in our league. And it's amazing how you start to see things in a bigger picture, at various times. And this was one of those times where I felt, we needed to kind of band together. And you're right, the demands on head coaches, or even some of my assistant coaches, to be honest with you, on their time has been, extraordinary at this point. I mean, you can't even describe it. And, dealing with parents, concerns from parents, kids, trying to maintain everything that you do on a daily basis, everything was magnified. And so those things certainly took the forefront. And it's in some ways, it's really bizarre, because in some ways I feel like we've had so much time since we last played football. We've gotten to get through some extra film. You always have a list as a coach of these, little things that you're going to get to someday, and you hardly ever get to those things. But I actually got to a few of those things this off season, which was obviously extended. But at the same time, you just feel like you have to. We're going through it with basketball right now. I know our conference. I think 2 weeks ago, we celebrated, and we got back to playing. And the first night, we had to cancel 3 games across the conference because of COVID. And I hope it doesn't happen that way in football, but the common sense half of me says we're going to have to negotiate through this, and there's going to be some games that teams are not going to be able to play or participate in, and that's just the way it's going to be this year, and we just have to keep working through those things.
So I imagine during all this, you probably came up with about 15 to 20 different game plans on how to handle all this stuff, and you had to throw them all out the window. So
that was the most difficult part, Tim, is, trying to put together, an off-season plan. I mean, when everything was canceled in August, okay, how long is this going to be canceled? Are we going to wait a month? Are we going to be practicing in 2 weeks? Is it going to? I mean, we had really no idea. And I know a lot of the people down at the IHSA. You do too. I know they're good people. And they were doing the best they could. Everybody has people they have to answer to. Everybody has things they have to do. And I totally understood from day one. Those people were not trying to drag anything out there. And I know it always polarizes. It's like politics nowadays. Everything is argued from one point to the other. But I knew the IHSA was doing the best they could, and they had no answers. Nobody had an answer. When the kids looked to us as coaches, we had no answers, because as you just mentioned, we'd never been through this before. So that was the toughest part, though, is just not knowing what was coming around the corner. And, okay, so what are we in? Are we in, deep strength building phase right now in the weight room? Or are we in conditioning phase 3-4 weeks out where we want to get their legs underneath them? Are we, we just not knowing that for a long time was really the most difficult thing. But again, everybody's in the same boat. So, it's not like anyone got to jump on anyone else, I don't.
What's your biggest concerns going into this? You mentioned, I mean, I talked to a kid last night. It kind of hit him when he said it and kind of thought about it. And he's like, man, I haven't put a football helmet on in a long time. I mean, is it just the getting back into pads and hitting and almost in a lot of ways, coach, having to relearn a lot of things? Even basic fundamental things you've got to relearn.
Yeah, that's going to be a tough thing, and that's why I'm so glad that some of the original models that I saw come out had a week, preseason, and we played, and I knew those really couldn't stick, but I was really worried about that. We're going to need every bit of that 3 weeks. That's a big concern, is the physical part of the game, because as I tell people all the time, being a coach, this is my 31st year now being a football coach here at Montini. And the way we practice now is a lot different than the way we used to practice 10, 20 years ago. And basically, we, through all the protocols and the concussion information out there, you're basically staging everything, and you're letting it loose on game day. And that's really the contact, most of the contact, or in some cases, all the contact that you get during the week. And so when you don't have that ability to have, a lot of scrimmage situations and do those things that we used to do, whether they were good or bad, they did get the kids ready to play. And I'll tell you, another big concern, not to be overlooked here, is as I look out the window, is the weather. There are, if you threw COVID out the window, and if we just had a season right now without any of these other factors involved, we would still all be concerned about the weather. Ground is harder. You talk about concussions and kids hitting their heads on the turf now, and the ground is frozen, and don't think it's going to be unfrozen for a very long time. It seems, looking at some of these weather patterns, clearing the snow and the slipperiness of the game. And I'm not talking about the sloppiness of the game and that we don't play well. I mean, that's going to happen anyway, but so there is a concern safety wise with the weather. I'm just going to say it. I know we are about it.
Yeah, I think everyone agrees. There's no doubt that's one of the main concerns, I think, on everyone's mind. All right, so let's finally talk about actual football, what you've got coming up. Again, as you can imagine, just thrilled to be able to do this finally. Coming off of 2019, which again seemed like a lifetime ago. You were 8-3, second round loss to Sycamore in the playoffs. Certainly not the way you are used to finishing seasons. I'm sure that was a motivating factor for a while for you guys, and getting into the weight room right after. You bring a good amount of starters back. I know you've got experience, and again, we talked about going through hybrid and going through all the different protocols to be able to have in-school learning. I know you've had some incoming transfers because of that, and I know that's a big part of the story as well for you. So why don't we start with, say, returning starters, and then we'll get to the newcomers. So I know returning starter-wise, right off the top, a kid like Dagan Miller. Here's a kid that has all the ability and potential in the world, and again, you can say it, I can say it. I think he's been under recruited. I think you'd agree. But just talk about him as a player, and then again, you've got some other, especially kind of two-way kids in that offensive lineup that play defense as well that are going to be keys.
Well, right off the bat, we have three-year starters that will be performing for us in our offensive line, and a couple of them flip-flop and play major minutes defensively. And you mentioned Dagan. Dagan's 6'4", and last year he played, about 310 pounds. He has had a tremendous off-season, extended off-season, and he looks fantastic now. I think he's right down about 290 right now. Looks very, very good. He was a kid that I was really hurt by the lack of ability to camp at some of these colleges, last summer. He's a tweener. He's a titch over 6'4". And as you know, as offensive tackles, the big Power 5 programs, they want those 6'6", 6'7" offensive tackles. And for my money, he's one of the best we've ever had. His feet are excellent, and he's off the charts in terms of his size and strength. So he's a big anchor for us, and I think he's one of the casualties here of this recruiting situation that this has brought about, because as you know, there's a log jam with so many players at so many schools because they're coming back for another year. And so kids like Dagan ended up falling through the cracks a little bit. Now he's got a couple of things he did not sign on signing day. He's still got a few things that we're working in the hamper. And so I'm very hopeful that those things are going to work out, but that dragged on. So as a 3-year starter, he's going to be a big part of our offensive line. We also have another guy coming back as a 3-year starter, his buddy Butch, and Demond is our best defensive lineman last year. Had a really great year, and we have used him on both sides of the ball for 3 years. He's the strongest kid in our program. Again, he's 6 foot tall, and I mean this with the ultimate compliment. He reminds me in his attitude, his work ethic, his leadership. He reminds me of Joe Spivak, who played for us, who is at Northwestern right now. And Butch has been really a heart and soul of our team in the last year and a half in this offseason. He's going to have a big year for us. We have another 3-year starter coming back in the offensive line at guard, Colin Baker. And Colin is our heavyweight wrestler for the wrestling team, and hopefully, knock on wood, they get a chance to compete after us later this spring. But those 3 guys, Colin is a physical kid. He looks really good now. He's about 265 pounds. And, those 3 guys are going to give us the experience that we need, up front. In our defensive backfield, we have really one of the best all-around players we've had here, DeAndre Harris. DeAndre is fortunate enough to sign at Georgetown on signing day. And DeAndre he's just a football player. He's a kid that, again, I think because he's not necessarily a combine guy, in terms of numbers that jump off the page, when you watch him play football, he's as physical of a player as I've ever coached here in 31 years. Okay? He is an instinctual player. He's going to play a little bit of outside linebacker safety for us, obviously defensively. He will also carry the ball for us. Last year, we had a couple of guys that carried for us. We had the Ufkin kid, CJ, that was a great
Mm-hmm.
leader for us last year, and DeAndre was right there with him. But DeAndre is going to carry a lot of that load for us offensively, so we feel really good about that. And again, another 3-year starter for us back. And at receiver, our top guy coming back again has been a 3-year varsity guy, and that's Jalen McBride. And Jalen is extremely athletic. He'll play corner for us too. He signed at Valpo, and we'll continue on at the next level there. So we've got that group of guys that are coming back, and I think our wide receiver position is a position that we have an awful lot of depth at. That we can bring back. We have a couple of juniors there that are really talented kids. One of them is a young man that has already committed to the University of Notre Dame to play baseball, Estevan Moreno. And he's about 6'2" now, goes about 205, and he's a tremendous athlete. He's actually playing basketball right now in this crazy world. But Estevan is going to make a big difference, in that group. Junior Mario Florio. Mario is, kind of when you think about some of the old Montini days and some of the state championship teams, Mario would be a guy that fits right in on those teams. A smaller, just absolutely compact, fireball, great football acumen, awesome leader, just a guy that really does a great job. So we're really confident about bringing him back to our wide receiver group too. So those are the guys that we have coming back. And, obviously we have to look at the quarterback position. That's going to be a big position for us this year. We lost, Deontay last year, and he's at University of Nebraska Kearney. And we have Trey Jones, who is a sophomore. And Trey was the backup quarterback last year as a freshman on the varsity and played a lot of minutes in JV games. And we're very pleased with what we see out of him. And he has a couple of offers already. He's got an offer from Arizona State and an offer from South Florida. So again, he's a sophomore, and it's going to be a great task. And we also have bolstered that position. We have another very special player named Cole Teschner, kid that transferred in from Schaumburg, and Cole's been tearing it up in some of the 7-on-7 leagues here. We look at it as a good situation. We've got two what I think are outstanding, great quarterbacks. They both happen to be sophomores, so we're going to work that out and do the best that we can in that position.
You've had that before.
Yeah.
You've had those, 2, 3 terrific quarterbacks, and you have made it work. So
yeah, Yeah. Yeah. And that's where we're at right now. Cole was kind of a blessing that we obviously didn't count on. And he transferred in here at the end of the first semester. And, we're very, very happy to have him. And so to me, it just makes our quarterback room that much better. So, we feel very good at that position with those two guys. And we have a couple of other sophomores that are still battling too. A young man named Brett Pickering is also a sophomore. He's got some big skills. And he's not quite as polished right now as the other two guys, but he's got a lot of the skill set. So he's another guy that I'm not sure how this is going to play out right now, but he's going to really have an impact possibly too. So we feel really good at that position with the depth we have. And then as we bring everything else together. We've got another couple of young guys. We've got our young running back kid named Josh Robinson that you're going to see a lot of this year. Big, physical, 6'2", 205-pound runner. He's maturing and getting bigger and stronger every day. One of the nice things, I guess, looking at the positives of some of the COVID is that we were going to rely on some sophomores this year, in several key positions, offensively and defensively. And, they got some extra time in the weight room. And so, they're not quite necessarily sophomores, I guess, anymore. But at the same time, so did all the other schools, too. So things might be relative. Josh will be, a guy that does that. And, again, our other offensive line group I feel really good about. We've got a kid, Cal Doucette, who's a senior, who will be a starter for us this year. Cal, we're probably going to move him to center. He'll play some tackle, too. He signed at Indiana Wesleyan couple weeks ago. Great kid, hard worker, big kid, filled out, looks great in the weight room. Luca Cano's another senior, Joey Long. These are kids that have been putting in their time, and they're going to really booster those three returning 3-year starters we have. So our offense, I think, is really going to be a strong part team.
Yeah, it'll be okay.
Yeah, I hope so.
But to be fair, as you all know, your schedule is not exactly a walk in the park.
No, it's not. And that's a daunting thing. And so obviously when you open with Mount Carmel, St. Rita, and Notre Dame, those are 3 challenging schools, So, yeah. So it's going to be a handful right off the top. But I talk to our guys all the time about that. This is what we choose. This is where we're at. And, we have a lot of discussion going on in our league right now about parity and things like this. And so I think this is a good model at this point right now. We have some crossover games, and I think all the bigger schools and the schools that play in the bigger division. We're not necessarily a bigger school, but when you play, you need the crossover games. Because we just can't play that gauntlet. And I think this schedule is a great representation. We play Providence on the back end. We lose the St. Viator game this year. They had to drop that week out. I know they were going to have a really good team. They've got some fantastic players back from last year. And of course, De La Salle always has, a great base of talent. They do a great job down there. So it's going to be a great schedule, but we anticipate that being in the Chicago Catholic League East Suburban Conference.
Yeah. One last thing, and I know for your program and a lot of the other Catholic League programs, it's a big question. Fans, how have you decided to handle it? Give us the latest. And I know it's going to, like everything else in this world now, it could change by the day or by the week, but kind of what's the approach for Montini as far as dealing with fans?
The last thing I heard was when I talked with our athletic director and our administrators was that we were looking at entertaining a model within the conference of having limited fans available. I don't know if that means just home fans in the stands, or I don't know if that means a certain amount from each school. Obviously, that's something I think that's going to be determined here in the next 4 or 5 weeks before we kick off. But it's just something that we have to deal with. It's a shame. One of the casualties of this thing is we were very excited. Our first game in the fall was supposed to be against Batavia, and we were going to host Batavia. And I've known Dennis for a long, long time. I've known him in college, and when we agreed to play the game, I looked at it as a program piece, that we were going to be able to entertain a high level program and be Batavia. I was looking at the atmosphere. I mean, that would be an opening round game. Batavia would have brought 3 full-time loads of people, Tim, and it would have been an awesome awesome environment. And that was the first thing that really kind of depressed me last spring was I realized, what we wanted to accomplish in that game was going to go right out the window because there was going to be no fans. And then, unfortunately, later on, we learned there was going to be no game. But, and that's part of the thing that we're going to have to struggle, and we're going to have to figure out a way to make this special for our kids. We have to do something because it's just not going to be a Friday night lights or a Saturday playoff experience with the fans. It's not going to happen this year. And that's a big part of it. And I feel bad about that, but still playing the game is going to be able to,
Well, and again, you and the rest of the Catholic League, you guys have done a great job with streaming and being able to present those games. So at minimum, at least fans will have a chance to be able to tune in and watch. And then good luck with you and the rest of the school trying to fight off people trying to sneak in and around your place to watch a ball game.
So do I. Yeah, you're credentialed, so you're okay to get, but there's going to be an awful lot of pretend reporters that day, Tim. All my alumni buddies are going to all want to be reporters and stand
200 guys with instamatic cameras on the sideline.
Exactly. That'll be what happens. But
really looking forward to that, Boo. Really looking forward to that.
Yeah. So,
hey, I appreciate the time as always. Nothing but the best for you and everyone at Montini. Go check out our friend over at Frankie's Deli, as I always like to say.
Oh yeah. And I'm going there right now, Tim. After this grueling interview, I got to go. Refuel over at Frankie's.
Well, I hope it wasn't too grueling, and great to talk to you. And we hope to see you very soon, my friend.
Thanks.